to a Game 7. John Smoltz will be on the call, and he's kind enough to join us for a few minutes right now from Fox. John, good morning. How are you?
Good morning. Yeah, doing great. Another Game 7.
Before we get to Game 7, and we don't really need to talk about Game 6, kind of a clunker last night, what was Game 5 like Friday night in Seattle?
Game 5 was I guess you can say, when I think about how this series has shaped up, it's strength versus strength. And expect the unexpected is what I've said in this series, because just when you think somebody's got a stronghold, it completely flips. And Game 5 was a moment that Seattle needed to be even in this position, right? I mean, you're talking about a scenario that I've played out many times in my head. Pitch selection, very questionable, but then a guy takes advantage of it and has his moment. You need guys to have moments. You need what you're built on and what you do well to impose your way, and that's hitting home runs. Now, we've talked about this, you and I have talked about this, whether that's a formula that can run the table, but it is what it is. This team is built around home runs. They've hit 2 3-run homers in a game and won. They hit a grand slam in a game and won. So that's what it's going to take tonight. I've never seen a series flip like that, meaning I talked about it yesterday. It seems insignificant, but to start the series, Arozarena was struck out, was walking to the dugout. He got a reprieve because the umpire didn't call it a strike. He walks. Next thing you know, they get 3 runs. They win that game. He gets hit by an 0-2 pitch. He's struggling at the plate. Next thing you know, they get 4 runs. Things like that have to happen in order for unless Seattle flips the script and they get a 5-hit inning, they're built on the long ball, and they're going to need their stars to come through tonight.
Yeah, it's interesting. They are built on the long ball, but generally what goes with that is the ability to take walks and get on base. And they do that. I mean, yes, Randy got hit before the grand slam, but they also took 2 walks right before that, including Naylor left on left. I mean, I get why you point to those two, and I'm not necessarily arguing it, but I do think they do more than just hit the home run. I mean, they do take walks, which is a big part of that philosophy.
They do. But the one thing that I've noticed in this series is that Toronto's a momentum-type offense. They get a lot of hits. They put the ball in play. Seattle, with the ability to play close games and get great pitching, it's been a little bit confusing because of how they got here. I mean, they've had to use so many pitchers, and they've had to exhaust so many to get here. I mean, this has been a phenomenal year, and they got a chance to go to the World Series, and I think they're in position to do it if they can get just a little bit of length out of their starter tonight. I think Seattle's formula works when they get their starting pitching. They've got a nasty bullpen, but they got to get a couple big hits. They do that throughout the year, and if they do that tonight, they're going to go to the World Series for the first time ever. There's going to be a lot of anxious moments in a Game 7. It always happens. You can get some flukish things in a Game 7 just because of those anxious moments. I love them. Obviously, I've got a chance to pitch in them. I've got a chance to call them. The only 2 people that aren't going to love them are the 2 managers, because it's a hard game to manage.
Take me back to your Game 7s and your mentality.
Well, the biggest thing is what I love about tonight's starters. They seem like they have slow heartbeats. I love George Kirby. I love his demeanor. Now, what happens is that has to be shown on the mound, and you have to be on top of your game. You have to have the slow heartbeat and deliver in the moment, right? And I know I pitched in a different era, so there was never a thought that I was just only going to give the club 4 innings. But you just never want to give your manager a reason to take him out, take your pitcher out sooner than you have to. So I think it's like a football analogy. what Seattle does well and what Toronto does well are meeting head-on in a Game 7. Toronto loves controlling the strike zone at the plate, and Seattle loves controlling the strike zone on the mound. You make good pitches, you're going to get quick outs. If you miss in the heart of the plate, it's going to be a big inning. And I think on the flip side, what Seattle does well is hits a lot of home runs, and what Toronto has not done well is keep the ball in the ballpark. So you really have two head-on collisions about to happen in Game 7, and this is what it's all about. Who can impose their will? Can Bieber make the pitches he made after the first inning and quiet their bats? And the same thing for Kirby. If Kirby, I know this sounds simple, and I know it seems elementary, but my philosophy has always been, whether it's a Game 7 or a postseason, but more importantly in a Game 7, always get the first hitter out. You got less stress. And if the next guy gets on, you're a ground ball away from a double play getting out of the inning. But if you can keep getting the leadoff hitters out, you dull the roar of the crowd, and you put yourself in a less of a heartbeat situation where when they get on base, they're just the best in baseball. And the same thing on the other side. When Seattle is doing what you guys are talking about, taking their walks, creating those big swing moments, they're as good as anybody in baseball. So it really is strength against strength, and who imposes their will either on the mound or at the plate is going to have a decided advantage in this great winner-take-all.
So one of the other keys for Seattle, I would think, is to get to Toronto's bullpen. In the games where they've gotten to the bullpen and the game is close, they've won. In the games where it's already over by the time the bullpen comes in, obviously they have not. So if you were, I know you were a pitcher, but if you were hitting coach tonight and you're trying to work out a strategy, not that it's not like an offensive coordinator, I get that, but if you're working out a strategy for getting to Toronto's bullpen tonight, what is that strategy?
Well, that strategy is, first and foremost, hoping that the score is close and you can make the manager make tough decisions, because no one's going to leave their starter in very long. You wouldn't think. That hasn't been the trend of the series so far. Munoz has barely pitched, so he's going to be a 2-inning pitcher, and he's going to be in there as soon as the most, I would say, high pressure or big moment situation calls for it. And then they're just going to backfill their rotation, with whoever and whenever. So if I'm Toronto, I'm trying to make sure that doesn't happen. But if I'm Seattle, I'm thinking, okay, with Bieber, he's not going to go 6. We've got to find an opportunity to create that pressure and get as many guys on and force the move earlier than not, right? To your point, the problem is the games have been kind of broken open one way or another with a few swings quickly. And so could this be our first really, well, Game 6 was close till the 8th, right? It was broken open in the 8th. But when you have to put managers on the hot seat and they don't have the comfort level of their bullpen being the way they would want it, that's a tough place for John Snyder. I think on the flip side for Dan Wilson, he's got a couple guys he hasn't gone to, and he has the luxury of going to them. Now they got to execute. Managers' decisions are only as good as the guy that comes in and executes. But this is what I've always said: the more guys you bring in, the more chances for something bad to happen, because they just didn't have their game or weren't on at the right time. So I agree with you 100%. If it's a formula you're trying to work in, you want to get into the pen of Toronto as quickly as you can. And you've seen those guys a lot, and the advantage goes to the hitters.
Johnny, you've been with us a bunch over the years, super gracious with your time, but this is the closest proximity you've had to this club that we watch every day, and you've gotten a chance now to watch a 7-game series with them. I'm curious if, with this proximity, if you've learned anything new. If maybe there was a perception, but the reality of being around all of these guys as much as you are through this series, anything new jumped out to you about this team?
Yeah, you hear this all the time by managers, but until you follow somebody, you don't really understand how tightly knit this group is, how much they really care about each other. They have a calmness about them. It's not a relaxed, like, oh, well, we're just swinging for the fences type team. They have this optimism. And look, I know we've talked about this, and I've talked about how the travel is brutal and it gets to you, and you could have a built-in excuse. They don't say it, they just acknowledge it. The manager seems to have given this team some freedom to be who they are. What stinks more than anything is when you get to this time and some of your guys are just struggling. They're out of their mechanics and they're not performing the way they want to, but you don't see anybody hanging their head. Suarez seems to be the guy and the glue that everybody seems to come to. He's super optimistic. He looked like he couldn't get himself in a situation to get a big hit, and then he did. He never hangs his head. So I kind of learned that this ball club, with all their personalities and all that they've been through, they understand each other, and this game will not bother them. If it goes great, unbelievable, historic moment for Seattle. If it doesn't, I don't think it's going to be because they weren't ready and they weren't ready for the moment to pull together. So it's a pretty unique group. When you see them from afar, you don't really know, to your point. And I've really grown to appreciate that part.
Yeah, we've heard the word resilience used a lot by the players and manager, everybody kind of around this club. They have been very resilient. I think they got swept 6 times this year, and amazing how after each of them, they just bounced right back and started winning games again. It just didn't seem to affect them the way it affects fans and everyone else who has to watch it and say, oh, my God, it feels like it's over. And they just don't feel that way. Being on teams.
Yeah, well.
Yeah, go ahead.
They have an aw-shucks superstar. And when you have an aw-shucks superstar and he really doesn't like the attention and he's had the greatest year any catcher's ever had, and you've got just quiet leaders and you've got star power in that lineup, I think they've been through it all. And, yeah, it's easy from afar to sit on your couch and see the struggles and go, I can't believe they can't put it in play. And then all of a sudden they get these big home runs. So it's definitely up close different than it is from afar.
Mm-hmm. Give me, Johnny, last couple things from me here. Give me 2 or 3. You've given us a ton of the biggest keys. We've had A-Rod on earlier in this series, had others on, and it's amazing how you baseball guys, it's almost like you see the game before the game happens. Give me just a couple of the biggest keys to the outcome from your perspective tonight.
Yeah, I know this, again, seems like a simple statement, but when I look at this series and I see the star power on both teams, you can look directly to the wins correlated to the stars. And it does come down to that. Now, fair or not, Julio Rodriguez has been moved up to the number 1 spot because they've had to change their lineup. And I just look for the first 2 hitters to make the impact tonight. Cal Raleigh, I can't imagine how exhausted he is and beat up, but you're never going to hear that from him. And I just think he's going to have another big hit. One of those 2 guys, you got to go to your stars. And, yeah, the unlikely, timely, maybe unforeseen hit that breaks it open could definitely be part of it. But there's some stars delivering in huge moments, and that's what it's going to take. You can't really pitch around the first and second hitter. It starts out boom, boom. It's like not that they got to hit homers. Just to your point, if they get on base and pass the baton, you start building that tension and pressure because the one thing that hasn't really happened in this series because of the way it's played out, there hasn't been a big comeback, right? There's been a game's tight, broken open. And so, the offenses are built differently. And so I just think, and again, I love starting pitching, but I think Kirby's going to bounce back because a pitcher, when you've had something happen to you for the first time that's never happened, you have a chance, you get set, you get reset, you make the necessary adjustment, you watch what's going on. Now the other side can do the same thing. So when you ask me that, that's where I go to. It's like I go to the stars that have been carrying this ball club, and in a moment like this, I think they have a chance to do and deliver a significant blow.
John, I remember your 2 big Game 7 starts in 1991. What I don't remember is, did those occur because you were just the next guy up, or did it sort of materialize that you were chosen for those 2 Game 7 starts?
Yeah, so in 91, I was on the torture side of a Game 6. We were down 3-2. Steve Avery pitched the greatest game I've ever watched personally, 0-0 into the ninth. And we won 1-0 in a run on the ninth, and I got a chance to pitch Game 7 and won 4-0 and went 9 innings. But then the next year, I didn't want to pitch. We were up 3-1. It was forced to be a Game 7. I pitched 1-4 in 7, and I was ornery just even pitching that game because we blew a couple games. So, yeah, I've been on both sides of it. And the one thing that I always felt when I walked into the locker room, there was going to be this sense of, we're okay. Don't worry. I got you. And I'm not saying that Kirby's that personality or even Beaver's that personality, but you got to have that inner side of you to say, I'm the guy. Don't worry about it. And set the tone right away. And, you know, I've always said, I mean, you just don't put a crooked number up there. Solo home runs aren't going to beat you. You wouldn't think so in this series. And you just want to set the tone. And I miss those moments. I think they're the greatest moments in the world. Some people fear the moments. Some people are worried about what if. You cannot have that attitude. And, you know, as a hitter, you can only do the one thing that's given to you at that time. As a pitcher, you can do a lot more. And so you want to give your team the confidence they don't have to chase runs. And if you can come out and keep I pitched all of mine, 2 of the 3 on the road. So raucous crowd, Game 7s, World Series, and you just want to keep the crowd to a dull roar because they're going to be electric.
Do you have to, I mean, as the starting pitcher, you're probably not talking to anybody before the game. So all of everything you just said, all of the confidence that you're trying to instill, do you have to do that with body language? Because I would imagine there's not a lot of talking about it.
Yeah, I was a little different. I wanted guys talking to me. It's like you pitch a Game 7 and you already got a no-hitter going. Like nobody talks to you during a whole no-hitter. And I'm like, I was talking to guys. You're focused, but I lived this out as a kid, man. I dreamt of this, and I don't know how many people feel that way, but yeah, in most cases you see, you know, the pitcher and he's got a stern look as if he's concentrating beyond belief, and he's just totally focused. I didn't go to bed thinking about the game. I didn't wake up thinking about the game. I only started thinking about the game. Now, subconsciously, you know what's going on, but I really started thinking about the game. I did my preparation, but when I walked out to the bullpen, it was like, this is the best walk in America because I'm about to get ready to do something there that doesn't happen very often. And so you got to have that mindset, and you just got to feel you're better than anybody that steps in that box. And if you don't feel it, you better fake it. And that's the beauty about being on the mound and having that body language where you don't know what's going on inside.
Might have to fake it with Vlad right now.
No, that's the one area where you know he's got the advantage.
Okay,
but you still can't show it. You can't show it when you're on the mound.
No.
You know, you got to be able to think you're better.
Yeah. Johnny, it's great, man. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
And you know what's really cool is that you and Joe bring that tonight. That same feeling, right? That same love for the moment that you had as a player. I feel that out of the 2 of you in that broadcast booth, and can't wait to tune in and watch it tonight, man. Enjoy it.
Yeah, you know what? I started out in my first World Series, and the Cubs won it, and that was 108 years.
Mm-hmm.
So somebody's going to have a big time span eliminated today. And I just can't wait to see how it unfolds.
Awesome.
Pretty cool. John, thank you so much. We really appreciate it. Good luck tonight and throughout.